Should we go ahead and reconvene or we missed?
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Absolutely. You are perfect, and they're just about to start. Good evening.
Hello.
Okay,
Can you
let's
say hi,
go
Bo?
back to order. This time we'll stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. Excuse me.
All right, and we want to welcome our McCarter student. We're going to turn it over to you to start the pledge. Then we'll speak to you, and if your principal's with us, speak to her at the very end. We'll turn it over to you, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, famous Bo Jensen, Jackson Bo Jensen, is here with us this evening. We are so excited. I was flipping the TV channels and saw him on Steve Harvey. As we get ready to turn it over to the board to get a chance to talk to Mr. Jensen, we'll first play a little clip from the show this past couple of weeks.
Bo, you ready to do this?
Yes.
All right, man, let's go. All right, Bo, on the count of 3, let's start pulling that truck. 1, 2, 3.
Let's go, buddy. Come on. Move those feet. Come on, Reese. Let's go, buddy. Come on. Always moving. Easy. Let's go, buddy. Let's go. Let's go.
Wow. Okay, with that being said, Ms. Cooney, do you have some comments you want to share before we turn it over to Bo and the school board to have some discussion?
Sure, yes. Dr. Anderson, thank you for having Bo do the Pledge of Allegiance. Bo, you did a terrific job. It's just been really fun to follow this journey. I talk to Bo's dad at dismissal quite frequently, and he keeps me abreast of how many hits have been on that video, and just some really neat stories about the experience that Bo had when he was there and kind of being immersed in a different culture than what we have at Topeka Public Schools at McCarter. So it's been fun to hear some of those stories. I don't know if, Bo, if you want to share that experience with the board and kind of how you felt when you were at the Steve Harvey show and all the different people that you saw, professional people. Do you want to share that story?
Yes. So when I went to the Steve Harvey show and I met him, he was really funny and super nice to me. He flew the world's strongest man down to Atlanta to cheer me on, and his name is Martins Lisi, and he's also really nice.
Okay. And you, your dad shared with me that it was the first time that you had been around that many professional people that kind of looked the same as you. Was that a different feeling?
Way different.
Yeah, was, I'm sure, very exciting. And we're just so proud of you for following your goals and working so hard, because that'll get you far in life no matter what you apply it to.
Thank you, Ms. Cooney. Mr. Jensen, we're going to turn this over to our board. We are, as Ms. Cooney said, so very proud of you. I'll turn it over to our board president.
Bo, as I recall, you presented to us a year ago or so. Is that right? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I remember you were a baseball player too. Is that right?
It's
Okay.
right.
Are you still a baseball? You still playing a lot of baseball?
Yes, I am.
And who's your favorite team?
The Royals.
Okay, well, that's a good answer. Yeah. Well, congratulations on being a TV star. That's not typical for us to have somebody who's been on the Steve Harvey show be one of our students. So congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Ms. Bowley.
I was wondering, are you training to go to the competition again this year?
Yes, I'm training hard to go to this competition.
And what month is that in? When should we watch you again?
March.
In March. That'll be great. Well, we wish you all the best of luck. I'm not sure you're going to need it. You can pull trucks. Really, there aren't that many people. In fact, I think I saw on a local station that you pulled 2 trucks. Is that correct?
Yes,
I-
it is.
I'm pulling 2 trucks. And all I can think of is, I hope those people put on the brakes when the time comes. Because there was another truck like in front of you that the rope was tied to. So I was a little worried about you, but it has been amazing to watch your journey. And I talked with Mr. Woods last night, and he was telling me a little bit about you, I guess Tuesday night. And very exciting to see you create these goals and meet these goals. And one more question. What's your goal for your next March meet competition?
To break the 12-year-old record.
Is that one yours, or is this a new record or new age group?
I'm 10, so it's a new record.
Well, good luck. We're rooting for you. We can't wait for you to come back and tell us about it. Thanks for coming tonight and saying the pledge.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay,
All right, we know we have a proud dad, as what one of the board members was acknowledging. It was so awesome seeing you cheering him on. Also on the Steve Harvey Show, you were definitely a dynamic duo. And so we're proud to have you as a family at McCarter and in Topeka. The certificate says, Topeka Public Schools Certificate of Appreciation. We recognize Jackson Bo Jensen for your service at the November 4th, 2021 School Board of Education meeting. And this is presented to you for giving the Pledge of Allegiance. Are there any final comments, sir, as we prepare to move on to our next highlight?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are proud of you. As we move on to our very next highlight, my apologies. Yes, sir.
okay. Let's follow the agenda.
That was just the Pledge of Allegiance.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second? It's been seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, ready for the vote.
Vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Okay, Dr. Anderson, you're on.
Now back to the highlights. That was such an exciting highlight. I was ready to go to the next highlights. All right, so we're going to start with our Senior of the Month video. And then at the end of that, we'll turn it over to Dr. Dadash to share a little bit about our senior and our senior who's on with us this evening. So this is Miss Elijah Brooks. Sorry, Mr. Elijah Brooks.
I'm Elijah Brooks and I go to Topeka West High School. I'm a part of the basketball team that's here, and I was previously a part of BSU, Black Student Union.
He's just intelligent. He's a true student athlete. A student before the athlete, but an outstanding athlete at that.
I knew he was something special. I knew he was had character with him that a lot of kids that age didn't have. And he's a very impressive kid.
He's one of those students who just really adds to class. His hour was one of those hours that you just sometimes dream about, where they're all engaged.
On top of that, he's just a great kid. He's one of those kids that's, smile lights up the room, and I've gotten to build a close relationship with him as well, and just comes from a great family, great parents, just an outstanding family overall.
The first time I met him, I knew he was something special. I knew he was had character with him that a lot of kids that age didn't have, and He's a very impressive kid.
First game, I came in late fourth quarter. Coach B and Coach Anthony just threw me in there. Then I was in the corner, and it got swung to me, and I just made the shot. And it was just like the first real taste of the varsity floor.
He's one of those kids who's a leader on the court and a leader off the court. He's a bright kid. He comes into class, and every conversation we would have, he would add to it.
He's just a driven young man. He's I've always told him, don't sell yourself short, because he has a lot to offer.
I don't know what college I'm going to yet, but I plan to study something with physical therapy involved with it.
He's very special. He's very special to me. He's very special to the people that he's around, his friends, and they tell you that kids like this don't come around very often in your coaching career.
My advice is to have confidence on and off the floor, no matter what position or situation you're in. Just hold your head high.
Mr. Brooks is indeed special, and such a young man that so many have positive things to share about. Dr. Dadash is on with us this evening. I'm going to turn it over to him, make just a couple of comments, and we're going to turn it over to Mr. Brooks and for any comments you have, sir, and to answer questions from our board. We are so proud of you.
Well, good evening. Just want to say thank you to our board and Dr. Anderson and our district leadership for having us tonight. I know this section is about recognizing some great people, families, and students, and people of 501. But first, I wanted to say thank you to our outgoing board members for your great work and dedication. And while my tenure here is at Topeka 501 is relatively short, but I've seen the effects of your dedication. I want to thank you for that. But speaking of great people, I also want to talk about Elijah. Elijah is what I will call a model student athlete. And I want to emphasize student before the athlete. He's a rock star in the classroom. He's a fantastic young man. I know his parents are super proud. I am certainly very proud. Topeka West is very proud. I know 501 is very proud. And I know he will make Topeka as a whole proud. Before I give him all the credit, I want to recognize his great family and his parents, Ms. Kay and Mr. Peter, for raising such an awesome young son. I want to recognize our Topeka West staff and his middle school and elementary school educators. And Elijah, I want you to know I'm proud of you. And Elijah sent me an email about 5 minutes ago saying, hey, we had prepared a gift for him, but he said, I left that in the office. So I don't want to ruin the surprise, but we gave him a hoodie with a Topeka West hoodie. We wanted to always for him to remember that he's a Charger. We prepared a gift card for him. We don't know where he's going to college yet. He's an intelligent, bright young man, great athlete. So he hasn't made his decision on his college yet. And also we gave him a personalized frame, an action shot of himself. So Elijah, when you get that tomorrow from the office, I apologize I ruined the surprise. But with all that said, thank you. And Elijah, we're proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Brooks, we're going to turn it over to our board to ask questions and have some discussion with you, sir. And it looks like you have your parents in the room. Who do you have with you, sir?
My mom and dad.
Can you tell us their names? I know they're somewhere standing off to the side.
All right. This is spot down. Katishis Anderson.
Hi.
My mom. All right. There's Walt. This is Peter Brooks, my dad.
So good to meet you both. We all are so very proud. We're going to turn over to Reverend Williams, our school board president.
Any comments? Dr. Mickelson.
Mr. Brooks, congratulations on being Student of the Month from Topeka West. So what are you thinking about college? Where are you thinking about going? So you haven't made up your mind yet, but what are the schools you're considering?
Right now, I'm really just waiting for probably more choices, but one school that has contacted me and actually really wants me to go there is Cali. So that's always an option, but besides that, I really don't know.
You're just going to play the season out and see who who sees your skills and wants you to come. Huh?
Yeah, that's the plan.
So what's the basketball forecast for this year for Topeka West? Second in the state last year, right?
Yeah. This year, you know, I had the most confidence in my team, so I say we're finna go back to state, and this time we are gonna win. So
Good luck to you. It's good to see Coach Bloomquist in the film too. So
yeah,
glad to see he's doing well. Congratulations.
thank you.
Ms. Bowley.
It's so nice to like actually meet you. You're like almost famous. Like last year I saw you on the TV and your name all the time. And here I actually get to talk to you. This is remarkable. So if you go to college, I know your first love is probably basketball, but what do you want to go for a degree?
See, I really don't know like that either, but I want like my occupation to be around like physical therapy.
So
You
you,
know, so I stay around athletes.
you do kind of know already that that's what you,
kind of, sort of.
so sports medicine of some type.
Yeah,
You'd be great at that, I think.
I hope so.
But I'm sure you want to play out your basketball career first. So,
Yeah.
but it's always good to have a goal when you go to college because, you know, the money just flies out of your pocket if you don't know what you're going for. So at least have a goal when you get there. So that'll be great. Well, good luck to you. And I can't wait to hear your name all over the news stations again this year. And hope you get a few more of those 3-pointers from the corner.
All right, thank you.
Good luck. I know you're going to go to state.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Munoz?
Mr. Brooks, congratulations on being, model student, and I'm sure your parents played a really large part in that. I'd also be interested to know if you have any sort of favorite teachers that sort of helped you and supported you off the court that got you to where you are.
Miss Nelson really with last year. I had her last year, and it was like the COVID year, so it was like everything was hectic, but she kind of like made everything manageable and calmed everything down. So that really helped me push through the whole year. And she was easy to talk to. And then Mr. McGinnis, he's just a funny dude, so he brights up the room. So, I like to stay around him too. And Coach Hunter, he's been there for me since I was a freshman, so he's a good support system too.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of great individuals around you helping support you. So wish you all the best of luck this year and I look forward to seeing what you do after TPS.
Thank you.
Stuart Campbell.
Elijah, we're so proud of you. And I'm really happy to video meet you also. I'm just curious, what middle school and elementary school did you go to?
I went to Williams Elementary School and Jordan Middle School.
Okay, great. And so this next question, I think is really more for your parents, some parenting advice. So so Elijah, either you can answer this or your parents can answer this, but what kind of support, like what all did they, and do they continue to do to help you be the amazing kid that you are?
Well, I'm gonna just say one part and then I'm gonna let my mom say the rest. And my dad, actually. They sacrificed everything for me, so that means a lot.
I guess just making sure that everything pretty much goes right, from school to home life, my work life, just everything just goes right for him, his siblings. So whatever he needs to get him through school or better him, I'm just there to support him no matter what.
Yeah, my dad was kind of like a coach before a coach, so I think he has a few words to say. Come on. He's coming. Just wait a minute for him.
He's shy.
He's warming up. He got to warm up to the camera and things. You know. Come on. Come on. Hey, waiting for you. What'd you do to help support
How to
him?
support him?
You know?
You coached him.
Just try to pretty much keep them out of trouble and on track. Pretty much keep them in sports, and they were all pretty easy to raise. Honestly, they're all good kids, and they make it easy for us.
Oh, good job, Mom and Dad and Elijah. Well, glad you're part of our TPS family.
Thank you. I'm glad to be.
Elijah, we have a certificate for you. Reverend Williams, may I proceed?
Yes, please.
The certificate, as it comes up on the screen, it honors you. You've already gotten your gift, or at least verbally gotten the gift, and you'll get and you've gotten it before, but as it sits for you, you know what's in that bag. So this says Topeka Public Schools recognizes Elijah Brooks as the November Senior of the Month, November 4th, 2021. This will be delivered to you tomorrow at your school. And again, congratulations, sir. It's an honor to meet you and to have you here this evening.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to meet all of you guys too.
Congratulations going forward.
Thank you.
Our next recognition, we're going to pull up this. Actually, I believe we do have a certificate, although this person has already received a pretty large award, and the photo has been captured and put all over social media. We'll turn it over to the board to ask any questions, but this is not an award that we gave. This is something that he's earned on his own. Recognition tonight is of Mr. Rob Hayes, and this certificate is a picture of him, and he'll share what the running is in the background, but it says Topeka Public Schools District recognizes Rob Hayes Jr. for inspiring students and staff across the district as a model of health and wellness. And so Mr. Hayes broke some records this past month. Mr. Hayes, can you share what those records are that you broke? And we'll turn this over to the board to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Anderson. And members of the board, it's a pleasure to be here tonight with you all and kind of share in the accomplishments. First of all, I want to say I'm very honored to be following Bo Jensen and Elijah Brooks. Those two young men are very, very impressive young men, and so just to be mentioned among those guys is kind of a treat. So thank you very much. On October 10th, yes, I ran the Wichita Marathon, and I ran it as just kind of a chance to run a marathon. My ultimate goal was to break my personal best. Up until that point, my personal best was 2:54. I'd run in the Kansas City Marathon a few years ago, and the Wichita Marathon is known to be a little bit faster because it's a little bit flatter. And trained hard for it, and ran a personal best of 2:47, and that was enough to win the race. And so in doing so, it did break the Kansas road race record, age group record of 55 to 59. The previous record was 2:59, so I broke that record by about 12 minutes. I also happened to break the 50 to 54 age group record as well in that race. And so I guess ultimately I'm the fastest 50-plus-year-old guy to run a Kansas road race, a marathon. So anyway, on October 23rd, I ventured into the ultra race mode and ran the fall ultra extravaganza race out of Ottawa on the beautiful Prairie Fire Trail from Ottawa to Iola. And it's my first 100-mile race, and ended up winning that race. And along with winning it, I ended up setting the national age group record for 55 to 59-year-olds, breaking the previous record by 1 hour and 14 minutes running a time of 14 hours and 35 minutes. And it was a great fall for me. I trained pretty hard for it for a few months, and it was nice to see all that hard work kind of pay off.
Reverend Williams, did you have a question, sir?
Mr. Hayes, for the record, would you please state where you honed your running skills? College, please.
Reverend Williams, for the record, I was born and raised in Topeka, Kansas, and ran track and cross country at Topeka West High School. And under the legendary coach, Joe Schrag, who is a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame athletic director, had won multiple state championships in track and cross country there, and had multiple state champions there as well. And took my running career to Kansas State University, where I was fortunate to be a member of several fabulous teams there. Was an all Big 8 performer a couple of times, and was fortunate enough to run in the 1988 NCAA National Cross Country Championships on a team that took, I believe, 15th overall. So I had great memories there. And so born here, right here in Topeka, Kansas, I honed those running skills.
Yeah, purple was in his blood.
Purple, yeah, that's right.
Dr. Morris.
Mr. Hayes, you happened to go past me on the Shunga Trail in one of your training. And, I tried to slow you down, but I think you were so focused that, and, as you passed me, I could feel the wind. But congratulations. I cannot imagine running 100 miles. That's just out of my thing. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Dr. Morrison was on his bicycle at the time. But you recall, Mr. Hayes, that the first fellow that ran a marathon died. Of course, he ran miles the previous days. I cannot imagine running 100. I had a friend wanted me to run Boston, but there are going to be 250 other runners, and I thought that was too many on a street. So have you run Boston yet?
No, I haven't. But as a result of the Wichita Marathon and the fact that it was a qualifying race and I've met the qualifying standard, the registration window begins on Monday, this coming Monday, and I will be registering for this year's, or for this coming year's Boston Marathon on April 18th, 2022.
That is impressive. Wow. Well, again, we want to congratulate you, Mr. Hayes. And my apologies, I'm going to turn it back over to the board for
a couple more questions. For those of us who aren't as familiar with you, could you tell us more about your role in TPS and a little bit about what went into in terms of your work to get prepared for these events, and how did you balance the two?
Well, thank you very much. First and foremost, yes, I'm an assistant principal at Topeka High School. I've been at Topeka High School for 14 years. I've been a part of Topeka Public Schools for 31 years. This is my 31st year. And so I'm very proud of that, and I love it, and it's where I'm going to finish. But you're right, it's a balancing act, and I'm just fortunate and blessed that I have a loving family, a family who supports me in what I do. It is very difficult to balance things, but I'm blessed also to be in a district that emphasizes health and well-being and self-care and those kinds of things, and I've taken that to heart throughout my career. It's something that I know I must do, and something that I try to encourage other people to do as well. And so, running comes third, family comes first, job comes second, and running comes third. And I just fit it into where I can. I'm pretty good at planning my training out. And then if I have to run in the morning, I run in the morning. If I have to run in the evening, I have to run in the evening. And if I have to run at midnight, I'll run at midnight. But I try not to steal any time away from my family or my job. And so when those windows of time come that I can get a run in, I get a run in. And so I do my best.
Well, congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Hayes, congratulations. And for those who don't know, Mr. Hayes is my son's principal at Topeka High. And my son also runs cross country. And I just want you to know that I read to my son, your student, the newspaper article, and he was and we're all impressed. So, but here he is, this 14-year-old, and I think he runs like super fast and is super fit. And he read what you have done and knows your age. And you're just an inspiration. You are an inspiration. He's like, wow, that's so cool. He's amazing. I want to do that one day. So thank you for being an inspiration to my son and kids everywhere.
Well, thank you very much. And your son has a bright future. I know that. I've watched him run, and I can tell he's got a bright future ahead of him. And I'm also blessed that I've got a great set of colleagues and the staff at Topeka High and the students and parents. They've been supportive as well. And not only that, but the congratulations I've received has been overwhelming and heartwarming, and it certainly makes me feel good too. So thank you.
Well, Mr. Hayes, you certainly are an inspiration, as the certificate shares. Your certificate will be delivered to you tomorrow as well. I know it pales in comparison to the award that you've already gotten, but we certainly want to acknowledge your level of just motivation you've given a lot of people, staff and students alike. So congratulations, sir. It's an honor to have you on the staff, and we'll be excited to see you and hear about the next race, perhaps the Boston Marathon that you'll be running. Congratulations.
Sounds good to me. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Hey.
That does conclude our highlights. And we do have our proclamation, which is under consent. But as you approve consent, the next item is regarding Native American land acknowledgement. So we'll do our proclamation at that time.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any, correct. All right. That brings us to disposition of business by consent. The chair will entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Is there a second? It's been second. Any questions? Seeing none, ready for the vote.
And the vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
That brings us to the superintendent's report, Dr. Anderson.
We are excited to recognize Native American Heritage Month under consent. You just approved that proclamation, and we'll be asking for Ms. Backshaw to proceed with reading our proclamation, and we'll go straight into talking a little bit about Native American land acknowledgements. Ms. Backshaw.
Hi, thanks for allowing me to read this. I'm going to read it from my lap just because I can't, it's old eyes. What can I say? Proclamation of Topeka United School District number 501, Native American Heritage Month, November 2021. Whereas Topeka Public Schools wishes to commemorate the sacrifices of Indigenous people or the Native American Indians across the Great Land from time immemorial up to and including the 21st century. And whereas during the month of November, we take the time to reflect upon the contributions made in the past, to celebrate the peaceful coexistence of the present, and to eagerly anticipate our future as we proudly accept the gifts continually given from the members of the Native American Indians, including students in Topeka Public Schools. And whereas, as we offer various methods of modes of instruction to give all students the opportunity to learn and to experience Indigenous cultures in the fields of music, dance, art, science, ecology, literature, economics, politics, and others. And we strive to incorporate these contributions into our everyday lives. And whereas the Board of Education, staff, and students of Topeka Public Schools wish to honor the Native American Indians and their nations throughout this land. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education, Unified School District number 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim November 2021 as Native American Heritage Month.
Thank you, Ms. Bagshaw. And Ms. Bagshaw coordinates all of our Native American affairs here within the public school district. And we'll be inviting her to join again next month as we continue our conversation about land acknowledgements. We do have it down for information and action. We will not be asking for any action this evening. We'd like for our Equity Council and for our team to continue to look at the Native American Land Acknowledgement document, which Ms. Strom, who is at Robinson, has been researching to ensure that we include all the tribes that would be represented in that land acknowledgement. We also want to give the board more time to learn a little bit more about land acknowledgements. And so we have asked for Chris Howell, who is the Executive Director of Native American Affairs for the state of Kansas. He's on with us, and he's just going to give a definition of what a land acknowledgement is, so you know what that is. And to answer any questions you may have, he's just here with us very briefly. At the very next meeting, we also are inviting some members, hopefully representing some of the tribal units that will be in that land acknowledgement. We're hoping to have them here as well. But we first want to answer any questions about what is a land acknowledgement. Commissioner Howell, thank you for being here this evening and for the work you do, sir. I'll turn it over to you if you can give that definition for our board of what that is, as we have seen those at K-State and in many other places.
Well, sure. Well, thank you, Dr. Anderson. I appreciate the time and the time of the rest of the board to have me on as a bit of a guest speaker this evening. And so I want to back up just a little bit with a little bit more background about myself and about how I first came to encounter land acknowledgements myself. During the bicentennial years of the Lewis and Clark bicentennial of 2003 to 2006, I served as the representative for the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma, of which I am a member of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma, to a group that they created that was named the Circle of Tribal Advisors. And that Circle of Tribal Advisors did provide lots of advice on the tribal protocols, how to approach tribes, and to get tribal participation in that bicentennial to more fulfill, I guess, or to ensure the accuracy of and completeness of the histories that the tribes experienced when they came into contact with Lewis and Clark as they began their trek across the country. And so as part of protocol, what the tribal advisors did recommend is that there would be an opportunity at the beginning of each of the 15 national signature events for a tribal leader to get up and welcome the guests back to the homelands of the tribes themselves. So for instance, in St. Louis, the welcome was provided by the Osage tribe, because majority of the Osage tribe, that was their territory. And so we invited them to come and participate in that particular event, and they led that opening procession and protocol, welcoming all the tribes to their homelands and all guests to the event for that particular event. So that's kind of how it started with us in the Lewis and Clark bicentennial. But truly, a land acknowledgement is a formal statement that recognizes and respects the indigenous peoples and respects the indigenous peoples, their traditions, and as traditional stewards of the land, and the enduring relationship that the tribes have with the land, regardless if they still live on that piece of land or not. The history that is not shared very often is the there's always dialogue about treaties that removed tribal people from one area and moved them to another. Well, what the treaties, or what's not really taught very well, is that the tribes never gave up their hunting and fishing and mineral rights in that property that they left behind. That those treaties were not written in that way. And that's what is causing a lot of interest in those treaties today, as is witnessed by the recent court case regarding the McGirt case in Oklahoma, where now the majority of Oklahoma is being recognized as a reservation. And it's causing a lot of bright young attorneys a lot of work trying to figure out exactly what that means as we start to figure out, okay, how does this impact municipalities and cities and the state of Oklahoma? It's really a fascinating case that was decided here in this last year. So, but that's what the land acknowledgement is. It's an opportunity to open the door to a discussion that is about some history that may be not as well taught as it should be within classrooms all across the country. And it's a great opportunity for a conciliation, an effort towards conciliation, and working with tribes to be sure that their voices are heard. And certainly, one of the things we did during the bicentennial is we provided a platform for tribes to share their perspectives about the Lewis and Clark history. And we let them have that stage with uncensored. It was uncensored. They could share whatever they wanted to from their perspectives. So it really was a more robust conversation about the history and how important it is to share those diverse and interesting perspectives on history.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. So our hope in having a land acknowledgement is to begin to make sure that we have this inclusivity, a spirit of inclusivity, and really having conversations with all groups that are part of Topeka Public Schools. We have an entire department and students that we're still identifying that are part of a tribal unit right here. And we want to begin to open up the door and have conversation and continue to make sure that we know the history of Topeka Public Schools. The other piece of this, which I hope is a member that'll be joining us in the future, is an invitation has been extended to the KNEA, who sometimes opens up their meetings as they came to one of the commissions for racial equity and justice with recognizing the tribal land that we were on in our meeting just this past month. And so I'm hoping that some of our educators at the very next meeting will be able to talk about work ahead that we can have. So I want to open this up for questions about what is a land acknowledgement. If you are unsure, the very next board meeting, we should have a draft. We hope to have other individuals who really are part of the history. And it's really in the spirit of inclusivity that we want to at least acknowledge who all make up Topeka Public Schools. Are there questions for Commissioner Howell?
Before we get started, Chris, I don't know if you remember me, but I remember you from my days of working for the state.
That's our board president, Reverend Williams. You may not necessarily see him on the screen based on the way the screen is
positioned. We served on a
positioned.
committee together years and years and years ago.
Yes, we did, sir. We sure did. And I do recognize you and remember you very well. It's good to see you. It's nice to see old friends still in the mix here.
Yeah, you look the same.
Well, I don't feel the same, that's for sure.
All right, any questions?
Thank you for being here with us and sort of introducing this topic. I think it's something for me that strikes my interest, and as Dr. Anderson said, towards this effort of inclusivity. It's I think something that's important to me, and I'm sure the rest of us. My question has to do with as we begin to think about who should be engaged in this process in terms of tribes here. There's a number of them in our area. How does one go about figuring out, who to include, or is it just everybody? I don't know. Could you talk us through maybe what that process might look like?
Sure. I mean, that's always the challenge when it comes to a land acknowledgement policy. So, for instance, or a statement. And for instance, for my tribe, our homelands, original homelands, were primarily in Nebraska, being the Pawnee, but we also went way up north into North Dakota and all the way south into Texas. And it just kind of depends on what the food source was to where the Pawnee tribe would actually, spend most of their time. And of course, like anything else, it was very cyclical where we decided, to follow and what food source we were following at the particular time, grazing on different land and those kinds of things. So the challenge becomes, trying to identify specifically, okay, in this particular area of Kansas, in the eastern side of Kansas, whose homelands were that? Well, you could say, well, the Pawnee were here, but there was also a time when Shawnee tribes were here, as we know from, the names that have been left behind, or that not left behind, but were commandeered basically, and to name different places along different trails or different landmarks or just different areas of a river. I mean, it's just, it's everywhere. And in one time in the history of the state of Kansas, we had more than 30 tribes that had reservations here because Kansas was designated as Indian country for a period of time before there was the big push to move all the tribes into Oklahoma, which became Indian territory at the time. So, you can rely, I think, on a lot of resources from the Kansas State Historical Society. They have a very big list of all the tribes that they maintain communications with regarding any kind of artifacts that may be found during an excavation, during a road excavation, during those kinds of construction projects when you dig anywhere in Kansas. So I think that might be the first step, is to try and work with some of their historians to really identify, who the tribes were that were in Kansas in this area. More specifically, you're talking about in the Topeka area. And so that would be my first recommendation. The other thing is that you can always look to the federally recognized tribes here in Kansas, of which there are 4, but they all reside in other counties other than Shawnee. But there are lots of good people there. There are lots of folks who have students that, that live in Topeka. A lot of folks live in Topeka and commute to, say, the Prairie Band, Potawatomi Nation, their reservation, and even on up into the Doniphan County, and where the Iowa tribe resides in that area, as well as the Sac and Fox. So you can always rely on them too to speak to some of their historians about, what might be appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. So in our space, Mr. Munoz, we are fortunate that we're partnering in partially with K-State, who's done a tremendous amount of work in this area. Ms. Strome and Dr. Redcorn have already drafted a potential land acknowledgement. Ms. Strome, in fact, that's the assistant principal at Robinson. She is meeting with one of the councilmen from Prairie Band on Saturday. She's already met with the chairman from the Kickapoo Nation. And the nations are being recognized. Then there are several of them are highlighted within our document. And then Mrs. Cope has drafted some general language, so she will look over whatever we present so that it is broad enough and general enough in a way that it's certainly hitting the spirit of what we would like to make sure that we're doing, but it also doesn't exclude any particular tribe that could perhaps be of concern in that regard. But it's rather extensive, which is why we're delaying any action, and just wanted tonight to make sure we all understand what it is and why we might be doing this. Again, thank you, Commissioner Howell. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say that, you want to be sure to understand or consider that, the land acknowledgement that you create is a living document and can be changed as needed. So it's not necessarily set in stone in its first draft or even its 5th draft, but it's something to keep in mind that we can always make adjustments to it in the future.
And we thank you for joining us this evening, Commissioner Howell, who is also on the Commission for Racial Equity and Justice, in addition to his role at the state level. We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Take care.
Thank you.
The next item, Mrs. Morrissey is on with us this evening, and we are turning it over to Ms. Morrissey to share her recommendation regarding the winter sports season. I think I called it fall at DCAC, and someone corrected me. So the winter sports season. Ms. Morrissey has already given the document, but in short, can you share your recommendation? And Mr. Gowan, if you have the document in board docs to pull up, we'll pull it up as well so that the public can follow along. Go right on ahead, Ms. Morrissey, with the verbal portion of what you'd like to share in terms of your recommendation.
Absolutely. Reverend Williams, members of the board, Dr. Anderson, thank you for letting me share this evening. I did present the document to you much the same as fall with a couple of changes. Since we have had the opportunity to get through the fall season, we were able to watch what happened in volleyball, which was an indoor sport, and found that we had no transmission in any of our locations. We've also closely watched other schools and what's been going on there. We feel like as long as we stay out of the red, we can move forward, allowing our athletes to unmask as they play. If we do have any kind of contact, we are able to test here on site at all of our schools. So we are able to do the testing when and if it is needed. And additionally, we would continue to mask in the other locations that I shared in the fall. So we would want to mask on the buses and while we're in transportation. We would want to mask in locker rooms when we're in close proximity. That differs from competition when the air is moving more. So at this point, that was the major part of the recommendation, unless you have questions. We also would like to allow our wrestlers, they missed the entire season last year, to move forward as well. I can't speak to every team, but I know in talking to my coaches here, the vast majority of our athletes are vaccinated. They do not want to miss another season, and they have encouraged each other. You've seen some of our students speak to that, but we know we have a few here and there who are not. We would encourage them to mask, but we want to be able to work with them to have as much of a normal winter sports season as they can. As far as spectators go, we would continue to follow the county guidelines, which would be to only have 50% capacity at the moment. We're all very able to do that, and all of our visitors would mask indoors.
Now we have test to play, test to learn in place. We do have added staff that can test players throughout this season. So we certainly anticipate utilizing that. And as you know, we have a grant that allows us to use that, and it's expected that we use the grant for that purpose. Are there questions for Ms. Morrissey?
Dr. Mickelson.
I apologize, Ms. Morrissey. I must have missed the first part of your presentation. So the recommendation, and I beg your indulgence to repeat what you just said about wrestling and basketball primarily, I suppose, are the two sports we're talking about.
Correct, indoor sports. I followed the fall guideline, but I moved the orange since we have been predominantly orange and had no concerns with volleyball. I moved that into the allowing them to unmask to play only while they're moving and playing their sport. If they go into the red, then we would ask those students who are not vaccinated to mask. As long as we stay in the other three, our experience for the last 2 semesters really in playing sports has shown us that transmission is minimal across the state in places, but we have certainly had no problems with our athletes. Anywhere they're indoors where they are not moving. So they are in a bus transporting, they are in a van transporting. We keep them at the 3-foot distance with masks on. But we want them to be able to play sports, and most of our athletes, as I said, are vaccinated.
I may have missed this, but is there a document that explains all this?
Yes.
I didn't see it. I don't know that's attached to board docs.
Our apologies if it's not attached to board docs. We'll make sure we bring this piece on up. It was sent in a couple of weeks ago, so
Okay.
if there's some.
I just didn't see it, and I know you referenced it, and I thought I missed it. So that's.
I'm happy to either email it, or if somebody lets me share my screen, I have it open on my computer.
I'd love it if you just.
No,
send
ma'am, we're
Ms. Lister
sharing it
and
with
she can-
everybody now to make sure that that we pull it up as well, and we'll kind of go back over that. Our apologies.
So will wrestlers get, are we going to test to play at all? Will the athletes be tested prior to a match, or only if there's a concern, or?
The discussion we've had now has been to work with athletes who may not be vaccinated and make sure we are testing them on a regular basis. The recommendation I read is at least weekly, unless they're symptomatic. We would also be able to test anybody who is vaccinated if they're symptomatic and have reason to believe they would have been exposed. So we have that capability here in the building at all 3 of our sites.
And we're going to make sure to see if we can share it. I think from we're going to go ahead and pull this on up. And all board members, it's also in your email as well, if you want to pull it up on your individual document in addition to us pulling it up. And again, our apologies. And do know Ms. Morrissey sent it in, I believe, a couple weeks ago. So again, my apology for that. Ms. Morrissey, as you've already talked about the winter sports, and as he's just scrolling on down, Ms. Morrissey, can you just walk back through the basketball, what those seasons are, wrestling, swimming, all those sports that are going to be played?
Yes, ma'am. All our winter basketball and wrestling will start November the 15th. Swimming starts after the first, or no, swimming starts earlier and bowling starts during the midwinter season as well. So they will all be taking place between the middle of November and the mid part of March, depending on postseason competitions. Most of them finish the end of February. I did separate high from low, moderate, substantial status. The high status, certainly unvaccinated athletes and coaches would wear masks during play. To be truthful, coaches wear masks at all times unless they are more than 6 feet away, which is rare. The low, moderate, and substantial is what we're asking, that we would like to be able to play while they're on the playing surface. They would still wear them on the bench if they can't maintain 6 foot. We space our benches 6 foot so they're apart, so they could take a mask break the same as we do in school. If we are at a location where the benches are not 6 foot spaced, they would mask. And then, as I said, transportation and in the locker rooms, they will mask. Opponents, as we did in the fall, we allow them to follow their own rules. Crowds would follow whatever guideline, honestly, within the league. I'm also league president. We will follow the rules of wherever we play. So it would be 50% capacity here right now, and everyone would mask at this point inside the building. Cheer, we did similar. There's a little bit difference because cheer is on the floor. So we would ask them that when they can't maintain the spacing, et cetera, they would wear masks. But if they can maintain appropriate spacing, they could unmask. They would have to mask if we're in high status and not stunt, because stunting with the masks on is dangerous. We also talked a little bit about quarantine. That's following guidelines. And then the test to play is also at the bottom.
So if unvaccinated, those athletes would have a quick test before competition.
We can certainly do that, yeah. We discussed once a week as kind of the guideline, but we can test prior to competition as directed if we have, and we don't have many, but we do have some.
If you want to be totally accurate, testing 3 to 4 days for unvaccinated, of course, they should be masked all the time. You know, if they're playing, but if they're tested beforehand, 3 to 4 days beforehand, and they're negative, they should be able to go in these sports and be unmasked. However, they'll be playing against people who may be unvaccinated. And therefore, if you really want to follow the science, 2 to 3 days after the meet, the unvaccinated should be tested again. That would be my recommendation.
We can certainly do that, Dr. Morrison.
I heard you say that talking to your coaches that your wrestlers are mostly vaccinated. When you say your wrestlers, is that district-wide or just at Topeka?
I was just speaking to having talked to my coaches in the building, having talked to people at the other 2 schools. They also feel they have a large number that are, but we do not know the exact numbers right now.
And so we can ask the exact number since we would be requiring or asking for the testing.
What I believe we can legally do, someone can correct me, that in order to unmask, they would have to prove, or to unmask and not have to test, they would have to provide proof that they are vaccinated. If they choose not to, then they would choose to do the testing even if they were vaccinated. So they can choose to divulge that information to us. And then those students who do not prove they are vaccinated can follow the testing guidelines that Dr. Morrison has recommended.
Thank you.
Board members comfortable with moving forward with tests to play and allowing for students to follow the guidelines Ms. Morrissey has set out?
Along with the post-competition testing.
What I wrote down, Dr. Bonebreak, is 3 days prior, if I heard you right, Dr. Morrison. So an unvaccinated athlete should be tested 3 days prior to a competition and 3 days after a competition.
That's
And
correct.
those may also coincide. I could end up testing on a Monday after a Friday game, which covers me for the Tuesday game, and then I'd test again before the next one in terms of basketball.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm trying to do the math in my head, but we can figure that one out. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll leave it to you to figure it out. You guys are very bright.
Thank you, Ms. Morrissey.
Unvaccinated athletes understand that we got rid of polio by vaccinating everybody.
So on the vaccination end, we actually will have another vaccination clinic, really targeting our elementary families who would like to utilize that on Saturday, next Saturday during our food pantry, the second Saturday in November, the second Saturday in December through the partnership with Kansas Department of Health. We will be offering another vaccination clinic. It could be that athletes would like to come to that particular clinic. It will certainly be available. We'll also be offering another clinic in November for both in November and December on a late start Friday for elementary families who would prefer to bring their child to school and stay and have the vaccination accessible in that space. That'll be hosted at Meadows Elementary because there's only one site and the parent will have to take their child regardless of what the site. So Meadows is the site for that late start Friday. That'll happen once in November and once in December. So we both have a Friday and a Saturday. So we will have a large number of people that will be fully vaccinated before they go home for winter break in our elementary population. And we may well be the first in this area offering that to families as just another equity access. Lastly, the Kansas Department of Health is actually offering 3 days a week from 8 to 4, another site at the History Museum for vaccinations to be occurring. So we'll be partnering with them in a variety of ways. Athletes, again, will certainly have the availability to utilize that. Are there other questions for Ms. Morrissey? And we thank you, Ms. Morrissey, for your thorough nature. Again, my apologies extended to you and to the board for not properly updating the attachment. Again, thank you, Ms. Morrissey.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
With those COVID updates on athletics, and now you know about our elementary plans, which have been finalized with KDHE and with the county. Those are all of the items that we would like to bring up. We have a graphic, but I don't know that we need to necessarily show that. It'll be going out tomorrow. That's really focused on the COVID elementary accessible services for families that would like to use that. But you can look and see that tomorrow when that's posted. I'll turn it back over to Reverend Williams.
Okay, next item on the agenda, discussion items. We have 3. First one being District Citizen Advisory Council 2021 through 2022 study topic presentation.
Reverend Williams, I think we may have some DCAC members with us that may want to remind us of their presentation, I believe, this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can, and good evening.
Excellent, good. My name is Sanela Hasanovic Little, and I am the study topic coordinator for DCAC for this year. I am looking, there is our president and the vice president.
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to unmute myself.
So Melissa, would you like to start?
Sure. Thank you, President Williams and members of the board. I am Melissa Wangenin, and I am president of the District Citizens Advisory Council, and you've just met Sanela Hasanovic-Little. She is the study committee coordinator. And also with us is Dr. Ivan Gruder, who's secretary, parliamentarian, and past president. And not with us tonight, but who's also a member of the executive council, is Sean Guile, who is our vice president. Tonight, we are asking the Board of Education to approve our DCAC study topic. We have two topics for the upcoming, the current school year. The first one is enrichment programs in high school. And the second one is high stakes testing. As you will recall, DCAC has studied enrichment programs at the elementary and middle school levels in the past. And this next study will complete that series with enrichment programs for high school students. And then as for the high stakes testing study topic, we will be reviewing our current practices of testing in Topeka Public Schools and also looking at the reasons for the testing and how the test results are used. So I appreciate your time tonight, and please let me know if you have any questions about the two study topics that we are offering up.
Okay, any questions? This is Melanie Stewart Campbell.
Hi, good evening, DCAC members. Good to see you. I'm curious, what specifically about high stakes testing is it that you're going to be studying?
Sanela, do you want to take that? Do you want me to get started?
So I can take it. So this is
Okay.
just the beginning. I know that it was presented on our regular meeting, and we received kind of solid feedback from the representatives in the DCAC. So there is an interest to do an overview of these assessments and the terminology that is associated with those. There is interest to understand in details why are we testing, what tests are used, how are they being used, etc. I know that there is interest to really find out the feedback from students and the families of the Topeka 501 district, as well as from the staff and the educators. So I think there is a interest in actually understanding these assessments in general.
Thank
on
you.
a deeper level. Yeah.
Thank you. I just have a follow-up of what is your definition of high stakes? Like district level, state, both?
What is the district's definition of a high stakes testing, or what is DCAC's?
DCAC's. What is your DCAC's definition of high stakes? Like which?
I think that's going to be part of the study.
Yes.
Actually, is to try to figure out start with how many tests does our district take, and what are the do they have high stakes to them, or what is their purpose? How are they used? We're starting from the very beginning, trying to figure out what all we do test on, and what is the purpose of all the tests.
And Mrs. Stewart Campbell, I have to say this is a very interesting topic for me personally, because I come from an education system that's completely different from this one. And I am extremely interested to really understand the high state testing that is utilized. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm asking more questions just so I could hear you speak, because your accent is really lovely. So what is your educational, what country did you receive education?
So I am originally from Yugoslavia. However, now I'm from Bosnia and Herzegovina, because in the 90s we went through that time of unrest and the war. So Yugoslavia no longer exists. So it's rather interesting when I apply for a passport here. But the educational system over there is absolutely different. And I learn as I go with my son through each of his grade levels, how everything is done. Yeah, I do not know what to add there because it is very hard to conceptualize and present.
Hvala.
Oh, nema na čemu, molim.
I understand that most European schools teach 10 and a half months a year.
So all I can say is that so all I can say is that, and I don't mean to my experience with the education here is Washburn University, University of Memphis, Tennessee, and California Southern University here. And I don't want to, I would say that the standards over there and the way it's presented, it's inhumane. It is extremely difficult. I always tell my son that he should be grateful to be in this country with the technology and the resources that are given here versus what would be required to do with the little resources over there. So kids here have a good opportunity that I hope they all are taking advantage of. And the school is very, I think we have a 3-month summer break, and yeah, it's September through, I don't remember anymore. It's been a while.
Take a break.
Just to Melissa, Ivan, and Stella, thank you so much for your contribution to the DCAC. I recognize the commitment it takes on your part to serve in a leadership role in that voluntary committee. Sanella and I are colleagues at work. We work together. And this is deviating from the purpose of this meeting, but the last time we spoke in this venue, your son had trouble sitting in a chair because he's so tall, as I recall.
Oh.
Did we resolve?
Yes, that is most wonderfully resolved, and I want to thank everyone. So just for a record, I am 6'1". However, my son is 6'9", so he's 16. And he's a junior at Topeka West. And so when he was a freshman, I guess that was right, he was still okay, right? But so sophomore year, we were all online, remote, and we had a couple of instances with his blood pressure and the height circulation, and it inspired us to look into the ergonomic solutions for him. And I have to say that Topeka West assisted us. I mean, thank you so very much. Now my son has in each of his classroom, he has a chair, stool, and a portable computer stand. You know, he can stand and sit. And we had any instances of, unfortunate events. But so my understanding is also that besides him using it, those can also be used as a laptop or a projector holders, or so it's a very good solution. I am entirely grateful. So thank you very much. I deeply appreciate it. Yes, and Dr. Nicholson, thank you very much for bringing it up.
I was hesitant to know if we fixed it or not, so I'm pleased.
It's fixed, and
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Munoz.
I just had a quick question. If I just bring it back to this topics. What's the timeline look like for the study and then for the eventual report that you'll present?
Very good.
Generally, we'll get started here in the month of December. assembling the two committees to start the study. And then I believe last year we gave the report to the board either at the May or the June meeting. But basically when the school year is wrapping up is when you can expect a report from DCAC back to the board.
Ms. Bowley.
What was the discussion with all of your members around the enrichment programs in high school? What was expected or lacking, or what was that discussion to bring this as one of your study topics?
Well, I'll see if Dr. Gruder or Sonella want to add as well, but my recollection was that we have studied enrichment programs at both elementary school and middle school. So it was really, the thought was, let's just kind of round out the series and cover all of our public schools, and let's go ahead and hit the high schools as well. But I'll see if the two other members of DCAC remember anything else that I haven't covered.
I was on the committee for both the elementary and the middle school. And one of the things that we discovered is that some buildings or attendance centers have programs that others don't. And so one of the repeating recommendations has been about equality. And so we'd like to study enrichment, which is not gifted, it's enrichment, and to make sure that there's equality and equal access across all of our buildings.
And are we talking AP classes as well when we're talking about enrichment, or are we talking about other types of courses?
Mostly it's extracurricular activities, both in the classroom and outside the classroom.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions? Thank you. Dr. Anderson.
Thank you.
As you remain under discussion items, the one legislative voice proposal, and then we'll go up to the closing of school timeline posting. But the one legislative voice proposal is similar to the last legislative documents. All the county superintendents have put that together. It is uploaded for you. And the difference in this particular proposal is that we have included just some impacts from COVID that we have experienced. We also included the economic impact to the county by employing the teachers that we employ. That is an addition that you don't always see. We'll be presenting in December, so we're not asking you to approve it this evening. We're asking if there's anything else you'd like for us to consider to take back to the other county superintendents. It still covers everything from recruitment to technology and broadband across the county and various other areas. Are we comfortable with the one legislative draft at this time for the other superintendents to look at? And we'll all be taking it to our board, certainly by the second meeting in November for approval.
Dr. Morrison.
I would encourage you to point out the last sentence in the paragraph about Shawnee County utilized KSDE endorsed curriculum guidelines and does not support or implement CRT.
Correct. We added in, thank you. We added that in, that we wanted to make it known that we do not use CRT, and nor does KSDE implement that. So we've added that comment as an addition. Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you. We'll be bringing back the one legislative proposal at the next board meeting, and then the county superintendents will present in December to the legislators.
Can I ask one quick question? What is the tier 3 teacher in the proposal? I didn't know. I'm not familiar with that term.
Sure. And we'll just pull up the legislative proposal here for the purpose of the rest of the audience. And Mr. Robbins, I think she's referencing finance, so we'll go straight.
It's teacher recruitment.
Under up under teacher recruitment.
Second to the last bullet under teacher recruitment.
And for capers, and I believe as well, Ms. Ramberg is also on as we address this particular item. So the item that you're looking at is establishing statewide financial incentives to encourage teachers. I think that's what you're looking at from what I can see from back here. To encourage teachers to both enter and I can't see it from way back there, remain in the profession during the pandemic, especially to address the tier 3 teachers. Mr. Robbins or Ms. Ramberg, would you like to share a little bit about what happens to tier 3 teachers that's different than the rest of our teachers?
Well, I really just want to know what tier 3, I've never heard that term. That's all. What does
And
that
if we
mean?
don't know what it is, I'm guessing the state legislators don't know either. So.
And we've had this on here each year, and I'm going to ask, and I think Ms. Ramberg is on. Those are our new teachers, but
I'm going to guess that is the level that new teachers come in under the program.
Those are new
Oh,
teachers.
that's a CAPERS term.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now that makes sense.
But to your point, while it's our new teachers, perhaps for our legislative group, although this has been on here in past times, we'll look at the phrasing to make sure that's understood by all who read this. Thank you for mentioning that. All right, with that, that's our legislative document. We'll be bringing it to the board at the next meeting and noting that particular adjusted language to make sure it's in layman's terms and not a CAPERS term. And the next item is the closing of a school timeline. Mrs. Cope will just share what we're doing this evening, which is really about a public notice is all we're doing, because we will be having further discussion about this topic again next month and throughout the course of this month. I'll turn it over to Ms. Cope first.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Anderson, Reverend Williams, board members. I appreciate the opportunity to briefly tell you what the action item or discussion and action item that would be tonight. As you know, if there is a proposal to close a school building and an attendance center, you are required to publish a notice in the newspaper for 2 consecutive weeks prior to at least once a week for 2 consecutive weeks prior to having a hearing. So that's what this would be doing today, is simply publishing giving us the authority to publish the notice, and that the hearing would then be on December 2nd, which would be I believe December 2nd, the first board meeting in December.
Any questions, comments? Thank you. That brings us to action items, correct? All right.
That is correct. And we are not asking for the Native American land acknowledgement, as the tribal research is still occurring, and we'll bring that back next time.
That takes us to 21.2, approval of the District Citizens Advisory Council's 2021-2022 study topic. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the proposed study topic of study as presented by DCAC.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? It's been second. Any questions, further discussion? Seeing none, ready for the vote.
Vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And next is item 21.3, notice of public hearing for the closure of Stout Elementary School. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the notice of public hearing for the closure of Stout Elementary School as presented.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been second. Any further discussions or questions? Seeing none, ready for the vote.
Vote is open.
Okay, thank you.
And all votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Okay, that takes us down to board member comments. Dr. Bowbreak. Not always. I could start it in the middle. Ms. Bowley.
New member, our board comments have never been explained what these comments should involve. And I would suggest they are a discussion of policy, improving student education and achievement. And increasing recognition and pay for our teachers and not aggrandizement. None of us need to boost their importance. This is an incredible board, talents, intelligence, communication, we're each valuable for our input from our unique perspectives, and I really respect that. Having said that, I have 7 postcards that are going out in space. I don't know when. Billy, do we know when these will be sent up in space? But we're going to have about 7,000 postcards that will go up in a rocket, come back with a postmark from outer space.
They have not given us a specific time frame just to get them submitted, and I believe they'll do more than one trip. I mean, as they're taking people on their trips to space.
Well, if it doesn't happen, I have a lot of bottles. We can put them in bottles and put them in the Kaw River and see how many come back.
Well, we will
Just
be
saying.
bulk mailing them so that they go as a school and then return as a school.
I understand they were taking a while to get postcards to us, so you took the initiative to have them made. And then we can send these that you had made. I'm impressed. I'm done.
Dr. Morrison.
I tend to agree with Dr. Bonebrick about what board comments ought to be. I mean, this is a different board. I do understand that. Previous board, our board comments were very short. And basically it was information. Like I attended District Health Council, and we are going to put, District Health Council is going to present to the policy committee the water thing about having bottled water and kids with water in the classroom, et cetera. And really, other than that, I think we have a good plan for our COVID, and I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mickelson.
2 items to discuss. One, I went to technology committee meeting and led by Mr. Gowan last Monday afternoon, I think. And a couple of highlights there. School Messenger is our new communication suite that integrates well with Tyler SIS. So provides some options for specific communication. So specifically, for example, we could email or text, or email, I guess, I'm not sure about text, email parents of a specific bus route or something like that if there was an issue with that bus route through Tyler SIS. So it gives us some opportunities to communicate better. A couple of highlights just to remind everyone. Mr. Gowan and his team have secured grant funding to provide in-home internet services for roughly 3,000 families during the pandemic that would go through the school year. And then the hotspots, which he's told us about before, unlimited data through the end of the school year as well, with an option to extend that through 2025. And then through grant funding again, provide in-home devices for some families where devices can't be sent home with the student. So did I accurately kind of summarize the summary there? The second thing I wanted to visit with just briefly was with the recent approval of vaccine for younger kids, 5 to 11. I did some research thinking, can we really relax the mask mandate at some point? Because at some point, I hope we can. The research I found doesn't support that yet, but it was on unvaccinated kids. One study in Arizona looked at over 1,000 school districts or schools, 1,000 schools representing 75% of their population over a 2-month period of time. And they looked at schools that required masks, schools that didn't initially require masks, but subsequently required them, and schools that didn't require masks. And the finding was the odds of a school-associated COVID outbreak in schools without a mask requirement were 3.5 times higher than schools with an early mask requirement. Now this is without availability of vaccine. And I would love for us at some point to have the discussion after our students all have a chance to be vaccinated. how long are we going to continue to have to wear masks? At some point, it is a choice. And so it'll probably come after I leave this board to give students an adequate time to be vaccinated, but I just encourage parents to seriously consider the vaccine for their children to keep us all safe and keep their students safe and prevent school-related outbreaks. And so we can go back to learning efficiently and properly and in school and with good teachers and students that are not masked up. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Bowley.
Well, I will cut my list shorter after the comments ahead of me. And so one of the things I would like to bring up is I understand that the Kansas Department of Education has put a survey out for teachers to take so that we have a better understanding of their needs in employment, why they're leaving the profession, why they're staying in the profession. And with the lower enrollment in our colleges and education and our concerns with retention and just employment across the nation, I would encourage our district to give time for our teachers to do that survey. As being a member of our personnel committee, I think that data would be very powerful to look in our future of how our air quotes business might need to change for in hiring and retaining good educators that we have. So I hope that we will allow our teachers some time to take that survey and so that we can gather that information. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Melanie Stewart Campbell.
At our DCAC meeting a few nights ago, Dr. Mickelson, you were reflecting on your years on the board, and you mentioned how our dual language program is a hidden gem, and that's something I know that we all support. We all think is great, and so I just want to share with everybody that Dr. Gray's team, his communications team, and I'm so fortunate I got to be involved in the initial planning, so they're putting together a promotional video to showcase our amazing pre-K-12 dual language program. And we're going to get the word out. We are finally going to get the word out beyond our TPS family in hopes of attracting more students, and not students who live beyond Scott's attendance area, because it's a magnet, right? And so the intention to magnetize kids from beyond Scott, but further to make others aware, to make parents aware outside of our 501's borders that this program exists. So, and not only will there be this promotional video, but I know Dr. Gray's team is also going to put together print material, and with like a QR code that parents could like put their camera on it and then watch a video. And I'm envisioning, I mean, this is the kind of program where a parent like me, who, let's say somebody who could work from anywhere, or they're moving to Topeka, where will I send my child to school? I would pick Topeka Public Schools for several reasons, but that would be a big reason. So I'm envisioning this print promotional material being in like pediatricians' offices, the library, WIC offices. I mean, just to like inform parents with littles, like why they need to send their kids to Topeka Public Schools. One of many reasons. All right, so I wanted to mention that, and also, like Dr. Mickelson was talking about these 2 grants that we approved tonight. One of them, the one with what is it called? Emerging Connectivity Fund, which is part of Biden's American Rescue Plan. And I'm holding one in my hand right now that Mr. Gowan brought me. And how cool is this? So there's a migrant family that I'm working with here in Topeka Public Schools, and they have no internet. And I told her, I think I can get you some internet. And she just couldn't believe it. She's like, really? How much is it going to cost? And I don't know. And I have it right here. I'm going to bring it to her tomorrow. So thank you, Mr. Gowan. That's very exciting. That is going to open up so many doors and windows for her and her kids to have internet connection. So I think that's wonderful. Okay, the other grant that we approved tonight is this is a very big deal. This is near and dear to me. It's called Project Semilla. And I know everybody read the agenda and I know everybody saw that, but did you know, well, Lalo does, but did you know that semilla means seed in Spanish? And so the writers of the grant came up with this acronym very cleverly to mean seed, because this grant is in collaboration with KU, and thanks to the efforts of our EL director, Anita Curry, and our English learner department, this is just a very big deal. They have been awarded almost $2.5 million from the US Department of Education. That is a lot of money, and this was a highly competitive grant. So the fact that they were awarded this large sum of money is going to have a tremendous impact on our district, because it has three goals. One, to endorse more teachers in ESOL. So this is going to be more staff who can effectively instruct students whose native language is not English. Two, our paraprofessionals who work with our English learners, so they're better prepared to effectively instruct our English learners. And three, remember when Dr. Pizat came from and spoke to us from KSDE, the world language consultant, and she spoke to us about the seal of biliteracy and what we can do to award more seals of biliteracy. That's the third component of this grant. So KU with our EL department is now they have funding to do what they need to do to have more recipients in TPS for the seal of biliteracy. So I'm really excited about this. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Again, congratulations to Mr. Bo Jensen, Elijah Brooks, and Mr. Rob Hayes on being amazing individuals and spending some time with us. We can't miss an opportunity to highlight the amazing individuals who are part of 501. I also want to highlight, speaking of amazing individuals, donations that were made that are here on our agenda. Advisors Excel that's been donated to our Family Police Initiative. And they've always done great work, and we're, again, appreciative of their generosity. Research Fine Foods that donated to Chase Middle School, as well as an anonymous donor who donated to a TCALC, which is a phenomenal place that's doing amazing things with our young people. And so we appreciate their generosity, and that makes the work that we do so much easier to have support from all different parts of our community. Earlier today, I visited McClure and sat down with the principal Artser to see how things were going there. You know, I live in East Topeka, so when I do happen to go to West Topeka, I didn't know that I drive by McClure often, just a few blocks away. So it's the first time that I've ever been there to that building. So I was, amazed to find this building. It was a gem that's hidden in this neighborhood, and so I had an awesome time getting to know the teachers, students there. I met a dog, a dog there who works with the students, and I forget what the name of the dog is, but the principal was telling me that at the beginning of the year, when some of the kids were, hesitant about coming back to school, that it helped. It helped these students, sort of focus and help them to adjust during the time when they needed it most. And so I think I love that we're using everything we can think of as tools to help students focus when they need it most. And so tomorrow I'll be headed to McCarter to visit with Principal Cooney, I believe, and so I'll be looking forward to that. Just earlier today, we all in this room know it, but for those from the public who are listening in, we had the celebration of Quentin Heights and the completion of the project there. I was the dad of a kindergarten, I believe, or maybe a preschool. My oldest, when this work started as a part of the bond initiative in 2014, I believe. And so the transformation that's gone on as I'm visiting schools, and now it's sort of making sense to me when I see new gymnasiums or shelter areas, when I see lights and work being done in the parking lots, when I see technology at the front door to make sure that our schools are secure. All of that is a years-long process. And so I'm appreciative of those board members who were here during that time, as well as the administration. Mr. Robbins, talked about all of the work and the funds that went to upgrade our schools. And so our teachers, our students are the beneficiaries of that. And so we're appreciative of that initiative. And I'm just maybe much more appreciative of those sort of works that help to make Topeka Public Schools a great place. One last thing, and I'll say, is yesterday I volunteered at the Christmas Bureau, and it was last week, and there's only 2 more days left. So for those families or individuals who work with families, if you want to make sure our families know that the Christmas Bureau put on by the United Way, we have 2 more days left. Tomorrow we'll be at 3 different places at Lundgren, Echo Ridge, and Salvation Army on East 6th Street. And so from 10 to 7, I believe, on Friday, and 10 to 2, but only at the Lundgren, former Lundgren Elementary School. So just if you haven't yet signed yourself up, and during Christmas is right. I know it seems like Christmas is a long time away, but it really is coming up very soon. If yourself or a family that you know of could use that sort of support, please make sure and you sign up before this deadline. That's all for me.
Thank you. Just for accountability and transparency purposes, I've been invited to speak at Eisenhower Middle School on the 14th at their youth group, male student youth group that Mr. Gardner coordinates. So looking forward to the opportunity to hang around young folks. Anything else for the good of the cause?